to give us an addition to the agenda today?
Yes, we need to add an addition for a closed session at the end of the meeting, sir.
And Mayor,
Have a motion to
since it's a special meeting, to add the closed session, it would have to be a unanimous vote.
Right, okay. Do I have
I make a motion, we approve the agenda with the closed session.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, all, it's unanimous. So we'll have a closed session. You want it at the end of the meeting, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Excuse me. Thank you. I want to thank the council and the citizens for attending this meeting and all the work that they have done, as well as all the employees of the town and everybody else. We have worked with the citizens a lot, and we have worked with the business community trying to come up to things on this. This is probably one of the harder decisions that the council has had to make for a while. And this has not just come up. This has come up for the last 20 years. This has come up. And I have always been against it. Because like somebody said, well, we don't want to be like Wrightsville Beach. Well, no, we're not trying to be like Wrightsville Beach. But it's just, it's one of those things that you keep looking at it and keep looking at it, and after a while, you decide, well, yes, we need to do it. Because if you rode around last summer and the summer and before that and 2 or 3 summers before that, it's just getting more and more crowded, and it's getting harder to control the parking in the town. And like I say, I want to get through this, and I want to thank the residents, the neighbors. When I say neighbors, I'm talking about the community around us, and of course even the visitors that come from far away, for their input. And believe me, there's been a lot of input into it. A lot of emails, a lot of phone calls. Every councilman has contacted people, and they have, the citizens and other people have contacted them. So it has been discussed between a lot of people. And the business community is, working with us well. Some of them say, well, it may hurt me a little bit, but I understand we've got to do it. So anyway, paid parking, like I say, is not an easy topic. It's one hard, I'm sure it was everywhere that has put it in, but if you look around, we're becoming one of the last places to put paid parking in. And really North Topsail Beach putting paid parking in has sort of pushed us into having to do it. And the reason, the reality is, over the years, our beach has grown, and it keeps right on growing. And, I'm proud of that. I like it because people say, oh, you've got a great place to go to. And so we should all be proud of the work that we've done to cause people to want to come here. And so we must have the good things. And so anyway, the reality is we're facing a real safety issue. Overcrowding will definitely change the culture of our family-oriented beach if we don't do something to manage it. And you saw that last summer especially. Some of the streets you try to get down, you couldn't hardly even get down the streets. And then you got people running out from behind the cars, little kids. It just presents a safety problem. So at this point, we've got to view paid parking and in one of two ways. We can view it as a positive change that will help us keep our families safe so we can continue to preserve the real heart that we are. It's not going to keep us from being a community. And I think from talking with the people, of course, the majority of the people in town are for paid parking. And then there's a percentage of them that are not. So, you know, I'm hoping that they can understand why we're doing this. And I think once we get into it and get it smoothed out, of course, I'm sure it will not be smooth the very start of it. You know, it's like anything else. When you first start something, you have to get into it before you can get it leveled out. So anyway, with that, you got anything you want to present first, Kyle?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council, and members of the public and visitors. I've got just a presentation of information that I wanted to present. A lot of this stuff is information that we have gone over, but it provides an opportunity for us to kind of go over some of the details, the reasonings behind some of the decisions that you'll be faced to make coming Tuesday. So if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'll try to lead council through this process.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So just for an introduction, and I didn't try to jazz up any of these slides, so you know, if it's pretty black and white as presented. I did drop this into your council folder, so if you have your computer and you do want to follow along that way, you certainly can. So starting back in April, I was contacted by a pay station vendor, which was T2 Solutions, to talk about their product and potential implementation. I don't know if they knew I was new to the town, but they thought they could catch my ear and of course wanted to explore any options that they had. In June, a rep from Creative Parking Concepts came to Surf City, they're out of Tennessee, to meet with myself and the mayor, and what we did was we took them around town and sort of showed them our current parking situation. Also in June, following that sort of meeting with the Creative Parking Concepts rep, we went down to the town of Carolina Beach to look at their program, look at the elements that comprised what they did from an administrative standpoint, from how operations work. They have two separate vendors, one that has sort of the oversight of the pay stations or meters, and then a third-party enforcement that came through Reef Parking Solutions or Linear Parking Management. And what that really showed to me was that it was a heavy administrative burden on their current staff. I think their finance staff was processing applications for parking, approving residents, parking passes, as well as just doing the general oversight of the entire program. So following up on that, in August 2020, met with Auto Connect on referral to discuss ideas and potential solutions. We also started talking about the process of developing a community-wide mobile application for other town service delivery and communications. Obviously, we're not here to really talk on that, but it is a secondary solution that the town can implement for just general communication. In October, we as council met down at a work session, which then reaffirmed a priority for council to continue working on paid parking solution for the town and to look at concepts and ideas. Following that, staff developed a request for proposals to include the development of a mobile application solution, which also included the town app as well as paid parking and enforcement solutions. Representatives from Auto Connect then presented to council at November work session to go over their product in general detail. And then once the request for proposals came due, AutoConnect had submitted their proposal, and staff had recommended moving forward with them as the vendor to provide the mobile application solution and paid parking details. So,
Now, Kyle, excuse me.
yes, sir.
You met with several other companies too.
Well, that was the T2 Solutions,
Right.
and then the Creative Parking Concepts, and then looking at the Carolina Beach model, which
Right.
were all fairly consistent
Yeah,
with having what you traditionally would see as a mobile kiosk, pay station, or a physical meter at a parking space.
Right.
That people are putting coins in, dollars, and or downloading another third-party application to process payment. So those were some of the details we looked at, which kind of led us down the path of saying that there's a heavy administrative burden in looking at those. Can we do this better?
right.
So also, some objectives that we were working on is what other alternatives for revenue could we look at, with the mindset of how can we have a minimal impact to our residents. The primary purpose of that was to offset costs for the Army Corps Federal Beach Nourishment Project. So the things that we looked at were exploring the food and beverage tax and how that's implemented through the state, explore increase in room occupancy tax, and to explore a luxury tax, which unfortunately all three of those options were determined to be non-attainable or very difficult processes through the General Assembly. I will note that room occupancy tax is still something that could be explored. However, we know that will be an uphill battle, and it will take coordination and partnerships through other jurisdictions, to go to Raleigh and really start talking about the need for this and dedicated project source. Right now, the state has only one jurisdiction that has a 7% room occupancy tax. That additional percent goes directly to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. So single project, that's what that money is earmarked towards, and that is the only 7% in the state that is implemented. So, the question comes up, why do we need additional revenue? The Army Corps Engineers, it's technically called the Coastal Storm Damage Reduction Project, was congressionally appropriated at $237 million to provide for a beach nourishment project at a 50-year term. The project is a cost share between the federal government and the local sponsor. In this case, the local sponsors are a joint town venture between Surf City and North Topsail Beach. And the funding breakdown is 65% of that funding comes from the federal government, and 35% is borne by the local partner in that project. In the state of North Carolina, traditionally they have covered 50% of the local requirement, which puts the town's responsibility of approximately 17.5% of that total construction cost, which is approximately $41,475,000. And again, that's the initial construction. Prior to the Army Corps project, the interlocal agreement was approved between Surf City and North Topsail Beach, providing for a 60-40 cost share, and that's strictly based on the lineal footage of beach to be nourished, equating to an approximate Surf City only cost of $24,885,000. So, although the town has been fiscally prudent over the years to fund beach nourishment, the total in reserves does not equate to the construction cost of the federal project, which is demonstrated in the following budget breakdown. So what we did, and just want to thank our finance staff and team for helping get these numbers together and having an accurate picture as to what we're looking at. Is the town had a fund balance at the end of the prior fiscal year, June 30th of 2020, at approximately $6.4 million. Pender does provide funds to the town. There was $360,000 that was included in the beach nourishment fund. And then we have a reimbursement that we are still waiting to receive from Hurricane Florence, which covered the Sand Hall project, or a portion thereof, at approximately $10.6 million, as well as the town was successful in applying for and receiving a grant award in the amount of approximately $1.3 million. Again, both of those numbers and reimbursements and grant monies, the town is still waiting to receive. So they are not in the beach nourishment fund as of today. The budgeted revenues, which comes approximately 1.5 from the general fund into the beach nourishment fund, as well as accommodation tax monies, is approximately 1.9 million. So what that looks like in a hypothetical, if we had the two funding sources from FEMA and the grant funding in place at approximately 20 million, 20.6 million. Again, this was at the end of the prior fiscal year. Budgeted expenditures for this current fiscal year were set at 1.9 million, with a estimated fund balance at the end of June of this current fiscal year at $18.7 million. Again, I think it's worth notating that this still does not account for monies that are hanging out there from the federal and state level through FEMA and Division of Water Resources. So furthermore, what we looked at was the federal beach nourishment project, and looking at just Surf City's share at $142.2 million, broken down at the federal at 65 at 92, the non-federal at 35% at 49.7 million, and then looking at the state share, cutting that 49 in half to 24.8, leaving the Surf City local share of $24.8 million. What we did, we put in here is a contingency set aside at 1.25, but I'll get to that a little bit further because I do think that we need to increase a contingency and put that into a different sort of terminology. But that left us at a total Surf City initial project cost at approximately $26 million. Then we applied the fund balance at the end of the current fiscal year at approximately $18.7 million, which leaves us with a gap in funding at approximately 7.3. That includes that contingency, but as I noted at the bottom of this, is the model makes an assumption that we would deplete the beach nourishment fund for the initial construction of the Army Corps project. That is not something that we would recommend that we do, so therefore the gap in funding should take into account a reserve of $5 million at minimum to carry forward for unexpected events. So real quick, I'll kind of just go over how the FEMA and Army Corps relationship would work if we were impacted by a storm. Right now, if we get a hurricane, a nor'easter, something that is declared by FEMA as a disaster, we apply to FEMA for a reimbursement. The town takes into account the efforts that need to be undertaken to restore the beach or bring it back to a certain level to provide basic minimal protections. And that was demonstrated through the emergency berm project or the truck haul project that the town had completed this past year. When we become a federally engineered beach through Army Corps, when we get a named event, the Army Corps will bear the responsibility of bringing the beach back to the initial construction template. If there's funds in the federal FCCE funding pot, which we do compete with other engineered beaches that have been developed through the Army Corps process. So no guarantees in that, and really there's a lot of unknowns as we move forward as to how that process will work, but we'll try to account for it the best that we can. So kind of continuing on in the gap in funding, as noted, it's not recommended to deplete the beach nourishment fund for initial construction, as there will be ancillary costs associated with the beach nourishment project. We are recommending maintaining a reserve at a minimum of $5 million to cover those costs. So again, if initial construction comes through, we already know that we're going to have to do some modifications to at least 36 crossovers or beach accesses across town. Other maintenance and other items are paid through the beach nourishment fund, and therefore we do not want to deplete that down to $0 as we move forward through the initial construction. So the intention of the town is to minimize financing the overall project, to reduce our interest liability, something that we have talked about over the last several months, and through initial basic analysis, extending out financing of a $13 million gap could cost the town approximately $6 million in interest. Therefore, it should be the town's utmost priority to reduce principal on the overall gap and to be prepared for future renourishment cycles. As part of this process, a 50-year contract term with the Corps would develop six-year recurring renourishment cycles. So those renourishment cycles are set at 50% that the federal government will cover, and then 50% that the local match, again, being the state and Surf City, would have to bear the expense for.
Kyle,
Yes, sir.
so the $6 million, is that based on if we took it out its full length?
That's correct. Yes,
We
sir.
have no intentions to do that.
No, sir. Our intention would be to pay down the principal as quickly as we fiscally can in a responsible manner, maintaining a reserve in that account. So that, yes, that would be drawn out over a 30-year term that the Army Corps would provide.
And then the renourishment every 6 years, what is the anticipated cost of that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will get to that very shortly.
All right, thanks.
So just to further the discussion of parking, leveraging additional revenues, the town can be in the position to fund future capital needs identified through various plans and studies. And that comes from your bike and ped plan, your comprehensive plan, our capital improvement plan, the myriad of documents that we use to guide the decisions and evaluate the needs of the town over a course of 10 years to 30 years through the comprehensive plan. If we make the minimum payments on that, then we would still be looking for additional revenue sources to fund some of those major projects, or going through a financing route, incurring interest. But financing projects is not always just a bad thing. Again, it's not. I don't want to paint a picture that if we have to go out and borrow money to finance a project that it's a negative thing. It's just something that we do incur additional costs for. So getting into renourishment costs, with the 50-year project commitment, the Army Corps, there'll be renourishment cycles on a 6-year time frame. So that's about 8.3 renourishment cycles over that term. Based on best and worst case scenarios provided by the Corps, those costs for Surf City only will range from $173.4 million to $227.8 million in renourishment costs today. Extending that out to 50 years does not take into account any sort of inflation, additional interest rates, or whatever it might look like. So again, traditionally the state covers 50% of that renourishment cost. So those figures equate to $86.7 million to $113.9 million over that 44-year term. So we have initial construction, get through our first 6 year, we start our first renourishment, and that's where the 44 years would come from there until the appropriated PPA would essentially keep us locked into the federal project. So over that 44-year term, that does equate to approximately 1.97 to 2.6 million per year in just renourishment budgeting for the term of the project. Also, this does not take into account the gap which will be realized based on current and projected revenue that is allocated to the Beach Nourishment Fund through the General Fund and Accommodations Fund. So we want to try to avoid double downing on having investments beyond the initial construction when we get to our first renourishment cycle. That would be the goal of the town.
I'd like to highlight something that we discussed yesterday.
Yes, sir.
It's important for the group. After sitting with the finance director, our debt ratio is at 2.9%.
Correct.
It's good to be under 15%, so we're in very good shape in regards to debt ratio.
Correct.
We are.
Okay.
Now, all of these figures, though, are taking in consideration that the federal and the state will put their portion into it. Now, if the federal government gets to where, you know, they come up with, 20 projects because of a devastating hurricane that came up the coast, they may say, well, we just can't fund that much, so you're going to have your own money to put into it. And, even though we've got $5 million in there, we still, so at that time, we're going to have, $10 to $12 million to do that project. So if the federal government decides they can't allot that, and how many times have we gone for a grant or something and they say we just can't do it? So therefore we got to have money in the bank to do it. That's just like the last sand project that we did. If we had not had that money in reserve, then we could not have done that project. Because the way that FEMA works is you have to do the project and pay for it. And then, at some point they will repay you for it. And so that's what I'm saying. I mean, don't think all this money is automatically going to come in, right?
That's correct, and really, the way I look at it, the biggest wild card is the state's appropriation to cover half of the local sponsor. We would ultimately love to see the state take on all of the local liability of this, but that has to be budgeted every year or every 2 years when the state does their budget. So if something that is going on, pandemic or whatever it could be, that funding, in my opinion, always becomes in jeopardy or potentially in limbo. So if we are going to be held responsible from the federal government to pay our share, then we need to be prepared to pay that to the greatest extent possible. That's just my very basic take on that. We can't rely on that to be there. Yes, it's been there in the past, and we can look to other jurisdictions who have gone through this process, and we have had an appropriation towards this project at the state level, but future years are definitely unknown. So, as you had indicated, Mr. Mayor, in your opening comments, other reasons for paid parking. So as reported, the town has seen a consistent increase in the need for parking enforcement, as an increase in visitors has led to people parking anywhere they possibly can throughout town, including rights of way in areas that cannot fit a vehicle, parking in the streets, private property, getting calls about people parking in homes that might be vacant, utilizing their crossover or whatnot, just leading to police response on those, has led to an increased conflict with pedestrians and bicyclists and creating potentially hazard situations. Councilman Torres, you did ask about statistics and how we can measure that. And what I learned through the police reporting is that a conflict between a pedestrian and a motorist without injury is going to be labeled as a, I should have wrote this down, as a disturbance, excuse me. So there's numerous disturbances, and without calling through each single report, very difficult to identify where that comes from. We did have a pedestrian-related incident that did lead to an injury this past year within town, so that is one report that I was able to extract. So moving forward, by designating certain areas or zones for parking, enforcement can focus on those locations and help direct parking in a more orderly fashion, demonstrated on the draft parking map that is part of your agenda for Tuesday. So other options that could be evaluated to handle the enforcement, the very basic and most easily identified solution would be to hire more enforcement officers or police officers, which does come at a large expense to the town. We do incur costs for vehicles, equipment, salaries, benefits, insurance, etc. The cost of hiring any employee, not only the town, but for any business, we have to weigh those. And then, of course, we have a do-nothing option, or leave things status quo and be reactive to the complaints and reactive to the situation that may be occurring on any single given day during our busy season. So what about paid parking and how does it work? So the basic concept of the paid parking program is to utilize a mobile application, eliminating the need for costly pay stations or kiosks, as well as long-term maintenance and liability to the town. As noted in the prior investigations, in other solutions required the town to purchase these at an estimated cost exceeding $250,000. This does not include maintenance. We own those systems, so maintenance responsibilities, if one goes out in the middle of a Saturday on a July weekend, we're down essentially for doing business. So the town will establish an official parking map highlighting the areas in which citizens and visitors are able to park. These areas include off-street parking or parking lots and on-street parking, 2-hour parking zones, and utilizing minimal rights-of-way, mainly for federal compliance, by providing public access and parking to the beach. By joining on with the Army Corps of Engineers, we also agree to having a public beach access within every half mile, and then having at least 10 parking spaces within a quarter mile of each one of those accesses. So thankfully the town is in pretty good position with having available parking and accesses to minimize that impact, but we know the town still had to do work on that. So that would be the driving force in what those zones would look like on the official parking map. So continuing on, what does this look like and how does it work? So the recommended proposal would include a fee schedule to address hourly, daily, weekly, and seasonal passes. The proposal also includes the ability for the town to provide free parking for residents, validating 2 vehicles through license plate numbers, and we're able to do that by linking the eligibility to the utility account holder. Additional passes, up to 2 more, may be validated through a special permit process for other household members that drive or have vehicles. The mobile solution allows for a highly customizable experience for the town to be able to address circumstances unique to Surf City and not an out-of-the-can solution that we had seen in prior demonstrations. Continuing on, understanding the unique nature of the central business district, which surrounds the main portion of town and where we are located right now, we have built into the solution the ability to provide business owners within this area validated parking, as well as options for those businesses to obtain reduced rate parking for their employees. Parking would be enforced as proposed from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., which still allows for early morning beach activities and nightlife and dining to occur without having to worry about paying to park. Certain areas along Roland Avenue, North Topsail Drive, and the lot adjacent to Beach Bunny to be 2-hour parking only to allow for additional access for transient visitors. So the fee schedule that we have presented looks similar to this, which is set at a $5 per hour rate, a maximum of $20 per day, a weekly pass option for people that may be visiting here that aren't within walking distance to the beach, and then a $250 seasonal or annual pass that would be available for anybody to purchase. Built into the solution would be a pay-by-mail option, and we would designate the lot that would be where the Old Town Hall currently sits, and that would be for anybody that may have come to the beach, forgot their cell phone or smartphone, or maybe they don't have a smartphone, or maybe their battery died. I think we all can sort of relate to that, would still have that option, and the vendor would be able to account for that through individual invoicing, and you can do the pay-by-mail option, and this is very similar to if you've ever traveled a toll road in other parts of the state or other parts of the country. If you don't have a pass, you simply continue on and you receive that letter in the mail days, sometimes weeks later. We would be expedient on that and get that out as soon as we could. As noted, residents would be validated and comped through the utility billing process. So looking at the violation side, all violations, whether it's extended time allowed, parking in a non-designated parking area, or other things like double parking or backing into a space, would constitute a $50 violation. If a violation had not been paid and someone illegally parked for a second time, the vehicle would be subject to tow. Enforcement will be covered by the parking vendor, who will employ individuals to monitor the entire island and enforce. Supplemental to this, we would have our police department in close coordination with the vendor, as there's some things that the vendor cannot enforce, mainly regarding state statutory violations, parking in a handicap spot without having accurate tags or a license plate to do that. So the police still would have presence in this program, and the vendor would help set them up to also be able to issue town ordinance violations similar to the way that they are doing, in case they get a call and can supplement if needed. So what's next is the council, we've asked you to consider the fee schedule, the ordinances, and the parking map on Tuesday, February 21st. February 2nd, 2021. If adopted, staff will continue to work with the vendor on sign design and placement in zones, adding parking bumpers in designated zones, and begin enforcement as an introductory period beginning March 1. The contract is from the vendor is being finalized. I'll defer to Mr. Eads to discuss that with council. And then we will work with residents that need assistance downloading the mobile application and setting up their vehicles for parking validation, and continue to put out information to the public on how the system works, demonstrating the ease of use for their enjoyment at the beach. So additional considerations that certainly council can discuss is staff has put together the draft parking map that went out in your package and is on our website. Do those zones need to be adjusted? Are there any additional fee considerations that council would like to discuss moving forward in this process? That's sort of a overview of how we got here, the whys, the revenue, addressing that situation, and then the basic overview of how the mobile application solution would be deployed, be available for residents and visitors to download, as soon as possible to get them set up in the system so that they can register their vehicles based on the license plate and then be ready to move forward. I will note that we would ask revalidation on an annual basis just to make sure our records are updated. But once you register a vehicle as a resident, you do not have to touch it essentially throughout the remainder of the year. The things that would require you to go in and make modifications is if you purchased a new vehicle and got a new license plate. God forbid if you get an accident and you have to go through that process and get a new license plate. If you sell something or whatever it might be. But the user would be able to go in on the back end and update their profile to include those two vehicles and the aliases on those. Again, as mentioned, we would look at the special permit process to where there is a little bit more administrative on the back end to validate the additional household members that would be still tied to that address and utility account. So I'm open for any questions, certainly, of council as we move through this process. It's been a pleasure to be able to work with everybody. I think I've talked to everybody about this extensively over the last days and weeks and months. And if I can be of assistance, please let me know.
Okay. I think that was a great overview, and hopefully people understand a little better why we got to this point and the reason that we're having to do it. Part of it is financing, but a lot of it is safety and welfare of the town. So that's something that we've definitely got to take into consideration. And like I say, paid parking is not an easy topic, so we've got a lot of hard discussion. We've still got some decisions to make. I had one come up to me last night, and something I'm surprised, I think Mickey talked about it a little bit, but from last year we had a problem at Charlotte Avenue, and he brought to my attention that the map has parking on both sides of the right-of-way down Shore Drive. So again, that would make a narrow avenue for, especially larger vehicles like fire trucks and other stuff like that to get through there with parking on both sides of Shore Drive at Charlotte Avenue. So I think that's something we probably need to look at. There's little things like that, and like I said, it's not going to be perfect to start with, so we're going to have to look at it as we go through the process. And, so we're going to have to be making changes even as we go through the year. So at this time, I'll just start with Jeremy. Jeremy, you got any comments you want to make?
Sure. A quick question. What are the months that we're entertaining not doing the paid parking? Is there a time we're not going to entertain? Is it going to be 12 months?
It would be November 1 through February 28
November 1.
would be.
So for 4 months?
Correct, yes.
4 months. So that would be 8 months times 30, 240. So basically $1 a day if you bought a pass based on these projections. Somebody bought a pass based on this, is that correct?
Your math
At
is pretty good.
$250 a season, if
Yes,
there's
sir.
that roughly 40 days we're doing parking, so it'd be roughly $1 a day if you bought a pass to park at the beach.
If you can break it down that way, yes,
Okay,
sir.
yeah, for sure. I just want a couple things real quick. So when I first got elected, Councilwoman Batts said to me, always govern and make decisions on 3 things: health, safety, and welfare. She said if you do those 3 things on every decision you make, you can't get in trouble with it. And so last July, the mayor and I were having lunch to discuss, we were just discussing items. One of the things we talked about was his site visit to Carolina Beach. And I made a couple notes from that I wanted to share with everybody. He said that one of the things he didn't want to become another Wrightsville Beach when it came to parking. That was one of his big concerns. Also, he said that his first concern would all be taking care of the Surf City citizens and the business owners. And I think that, I believe that every decision that we have been talking about is taking care of the citizens first and the business owners first. I went to Lowe's yesterday, very interesting. I'm sure like the mayor and every other council member, I went to Lowe's yesterday, walked in, and I couldn't get anything bought for the half dozen people that spoke with me about this. But something happened in particular that really hit me yesterday. One person, a business owner from our community, talked to me, and she said that she was unaware of the issue. She wasn't against this, but she didn't know when this all came up. And I had said to her, I had explained to her that we've been actively pursuing this for almost a year now, but since I got elected to council, we've been talking about it. And I said, then it hit me all of a sudden. This person also said, are you guys still meeting? And I believe it hit me all of a sudden that we continued to meet, and we used to have 100 or 200 people at meetings, but everybody quit coming. So in these discussions that we were having over the last year, people weren't at these meetings to hear these discussions, or they weren't listening online.
Well, most people do not go online.
Correct.
I found that out.
Correct. So that person actually said to me, geez, that makes sense. So there was a pretty good idea that we discussed this, or we were talking about it, and it was overlooked from some people. So I made a couple notes why I'm in favor of this. So what I see as daily in the summer as a business owner, where I am in the Central Business District, I see 100 times a week, I see people get out of their vehicles, full of coolers, full of chairs, and they head on over to the beach. And not that they don't support our local businesses, not that I don't say that, but I probably could venture to say that they go there without doing that process. They leave their garbage, they use the facilities, and then we as a taxpayer have to take care of that process. And I have no problem, glad they're here, but at the end of the day, I think it's great that they get to contribute, would start to get to contribute to our process. The next reason I'm in favor of this is the council's concerned to make sure the residents and business owners are not affected by this negatively. There is not one part of this process that affects the taxpayers and our business owners negatively. From the parking passes for the business owners that we're considering, to residents getting parking passes. It's funny, when I live out in Dogwood Lakes, the farthest reaches of Surf City, there ain't a citizen in there that's negative about this, because they're all like, we get a parking pass because we pay taxes here in Surf City. And another thing is, people from other communities are very quick to criticize, but no one's offering from those communities a solution for our issue when it comes to finances. You know, I bring this up, Teresa's brought up the dump thing. Some of my employees were doing some work, couldn't go to the dump in Hampstead because I'm not in so we had to go to the one in Sneed's Ferry. It cost me $58 to dump some stuff. Nobody gave me a discount. So these are some things that I think that we are making the right decisions as a council. I think we are moving in the right direction. Somebody from the news called me yesterday, and I said, look, we want to hear what people have to say. I don't have anything to say because I'm talked to Councilman Fowler. We want to hear what everybody has to say. You know, although people say our decision's not made until Tuesday. We're taking what people say into consideration. And what I'm hearing from people is they like paid parking. That's what I'm hearing from people. And so you have a few people that if I take a moment to explain to people the benefits, it outweighs the negativity of it. And that's just what I have to say. Sorry to run my mouth off, but I wanted to point a few of those things out. And there's always going to be a few people that don't like it. You're not going to make everybody happy, but at the end of the day, my job is to protect our citizens. What's our options? Let me think about this. We either raise taxes, which ain't happening on anybody's watch here at all costs. We don't do our beach nourishment, which ain't happening, or we figure a way out to create income. I'll say this last thing. COVID wiped out one of my businesses, so I needed to look for alternate methods of income. So I opened another business, and that's what this council's doing. We've got to look for alternate ways to earn income, and this does not affect our city, and I applaud the mayor for running the front on this, and the council for asking the tough questions. So thank you. Sorry to run my mouth off.
No, that's fine. That's what we're here for.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Helms.
I'm for the paid parking. I'm gonna bring something up that I told you. I told all of you that it was gonna happen. And that we didn't need to do something, but we did it. We need another leg on the roundabout. And the reason for it, and I brought it up when we were voting on this, we don't need emergency vehicles driving down North Shore Drive and South Shore Drive because you're gonna have parking on both sides. That is a crossover place for a lot of adults and children. And I don't want to see an emergency vehicle get in an accident with a child or an adult by driving down North Shore Drive and South Shore Drive in an emergency situation. And if we had the other leg at the roundabout that went up North Topsail Drive, they could use it and stay off of North Shore and South Shore Drive. But in that situation, in the other situation, by being a positive member of the fire department, I see this parking cars everywhere is causing problems for emergency vehicles also, because they can't get through. And you got business owners that are trying to run a business, and it's like in Jeremy's situation, he can't hire an employee, or he shouldn't have to hire an employee to stand in his parking lot, and anyone that's not doing business with him, that's just going to the beach, to keep them from parking in his parking. He pays taxes on that business and property, and every business owner is in the same situation. We've got, or correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but your parks are gonna be where people can park, but we shouldn't be using those because we have people with small children that wanna use our parks. And if they don't have anywhere to park, then they can't use the park. And we've got 3 parks here now, or 4, and they're there for people to use during the summer and winter when the weather's appropriate. And that's another way to help with the parking situation. And I realize it's a difficult decision to make, but we need to do it for beach nourishment. And that will help provide an adequate source of income for beach nourishment that can shorten or lower the cost of that expense. And I've been here close to 30 years, and we've been working on this beach nourishment for 30 years, and it's now here, and we need to make sure that we go through with that, because it's going to benefit everybody on the beach, that's first line residents on the beach, plus it's going to benefit everybody in the community. Not only the people on the ocean front, it's going to benefit everybody in Surf City. It's going to benefit everybody in Pender County and in North Carolina. So we looked at this, we've studied this. I know there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the vendor to get all the particulars shored up to where come March 1, we don't have a whole lot of problems. We're gonna have some because it's something new until we get it till we get it adjusted down to where it's problem-free, which I don't think it'll ever be that way. I think you're gonna, anything you have problems with, as old, it doesn't matter how old it is, you still gonna have problems. And that's to be expected. But I'm for paid parking. I don't, in my opinion, I don't think it's gonna hurt the citizens. It's not gonna hurt the business owners. And the people that come in and visit this town, I think it'll make it a better place to visit. So I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Vance.
I never thought that we would actually be talking about paid parking. But I realized, you know, with the federal project, which a lot of us never thought the federal project would ever happen, to be honest with you. I mean, it is, I think, a miracle that it did happen. I'm glad it happened, and we need to make sure that we have the funding to move forward with this project. In our neighboring town, North Topsail Beach, that's with us, you know, Surf City has had the foresight to sit money aside and prepare for this project. North Topsail Beach, in a meeting yesterday, someone was saying in their phase 5 where this project is going to take place, their taxes could ultimately go to 144% to 300% increase to pay for this project. Even with paid parking, they are you know, looking for alternatives to help pay for this project. So over the last 4 years that I've sat on the council, when I first got on council, I remember us talking about doing a parking deck at the old ward building. I remember us talking about doing off the island parking lots and Surf City having a shuttle to take people back and forth. So it's not something that, you know, just all of a sudden that we just came up with in the last, you know, month, 2 months. It's been in the talk for many years, and it's very difficult because you look back and you think that, you know, this isn't the way it was, and we don't like change, and you know, sometimes change has to happen, and it takes a little time to get used to it, and in the long run, it does get accepted if it's handled properly. In the last year, I have had so many calls. A lot of it probably was because COVID pushed so many people here early on during the season. We had an outstanding year as far as the economy was here. I think our occupancy tax that we had budgeted for doubled, if I'm not mistaken, Kyle? Yeah. So we had an outstanding year. I personally, I think everyone else expects that to continue over, you know, the next couple years. People are going to continue to come to the beach no matter what. That's their outlet. The main problem that I have heard during that process was parking in the right-of-way. People parking in the right-of-way, parking in front of the mailbox, postman not stopping for, you know, 5-6 days on end because there was cars parked in the right-of-way and he couldn't get in to deliver mail. People parking in businesses, you know, some businesses are limited with their parking. I, for example, have about 8 parking spaces out front. We sit there, you know, if our hours, if you're coming after hours on weekends when no one's there, I have no problem with you parking in our parking lot. But we had to put up signs last year because Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock, someone get out of their car, beach chair, coolers, and start walking to the beach. And I'm like, hey, we're not going to have a place for our employees to park or our clients to park, you know? Can you please park somewhere else? And that's, I mean, it's a hard thing to do, to go out and ask someone to move. because then it makes you look like the bad guy, and you're like, hey, but not only was it right-of-way parking for, you know, this little district downtown, it was private property owners that were calling and saying, hey, someone's parked in my yard, on the side of my yard. You know, they just put ruts all in my grass. So a lot of those property owners have now gone out and they put shrubbery or big boulder rocks in the right-of-way to prevent people from parking in the right-of-way. Well, that's not allowed. Or they'll go out and they'll start digging holes to put up a fence. And then the next thing you know, Public Works, utility departments having to run out, you know, just last week they had to run out and fix a water or a sewer line that someone had busted when they were trying to put up a fence post to try to keep people from parking in their yard. So by no means am I ever trying to detour anyone from coming to the beach. I think I had told the majority of everyone here that if Surf City residents, you know, had to pay for paid parking, I wouldn't even be here, sitting here discussing it, you know. For people just off the island, you know, I consider them to be locals too. You know, when you go over to the dirt roads just off the island, or you go up 50, you know, a lot of times you ask those people where they live. I live in Surf City, I'm a local, you know, and that's true, you know. And so you hate to say, you know, you're gonna have to, you know, now get a parking pass, a seasonal parking pass. It's a very hard decision. So I'm not trying to detour anybody from coming to the beach, but we must gain control for the right-of-way parking, and the main reason is for safety issues. I've talked to many of the business owners in this little district downtown. A lot of those that I have talked to are like, you know, they're saying thank you. They're saying a lot of times that, you know, people will come and park in their parking spaces that they have for their businesses, which is very limited in this area, just like I said at my office. And they may park and, you know, go surfing for 3 or 4 hours, and then, you know, the people that are coming to eat in their restaurant don't have a place to park. So they have said, you know, if Surf City does move forward with some type of third-party vendor, we want them to take over our parking lot as well, because we need help. I know it's going to take some time, you know, and probably we're going to get a lot of kickback if we do move forward with this. Anything new, the kinks are going to have to be worked out. But if I had to move forward with saying, you know, how I feel today, I would have to say I feel that it's the right thing to do, because it is being very respectful to our residents and our business owners by doing so.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fowler.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some of the same sentiments that's been expressed already by Councilman Shugarts, Councilman Helms, and Councilman Batts. I've always been mindful of our citizens, and we live in a community that has a lot of people on fixed incomes. I've also, like most of you sitting in here, would rather not have to be in this position to make a decision to charge, because we would like to see everybody come to the beach. But with that being said, we are in the time that has to go. I've had numerous citizens complain about our parking this past year, and even before that, this past year was atrocious. It was just terrible. I've always been one that wanted to look at the safety end of things, and as Ms. Batts said, and Mr. Helms said, and Mr. Sugar as well, it does pose a safety concern the way that people are parking and have been parking. And the ones that have contacted me and want something done, and we need to pay heed to that and try to do something. Listening to the public comments, I have been on Facebook and looked at the ones that have posted and sent back in. I always try to adhere to what our community's pulse is and what they're looking for. And from what I can gather from all the Facebook posts that has been posted to all the council people, as well as those that's called me, it's running about roughly 29 to 43% of the thing are for it, with provisions that we've put in, taking care of our residents, taking care of those in the yearly pass, giving discounts, taking in our business situations. If you add those, that came out to be roughly 18 to 44%. So if you add the four, they were not against paid parking, they were for paid parking, but they wanted some provisions for it, which we have included in that. So if you take the 4% and the ones that wanted some provisions put in for it, that comes out to be a total of roughly 68 to 70% of our citizens are in support of some form of paid parking to help with the safety, help with the erratic parking that's been done, and support it. And it's roughly around 28%, or between 25 and 28% are definitely against it. And then we have a roughly 4% of the others that just gave an opinion. They didn't have a solution, they wasn't for it, wasn't against it. They just wanted what if. So if you add all those up, that comes out to be 100%. But if you look at, and I'm a facts and data person, if you look at it and you see what our community is saying, and from their comments and what's being done, they want something done. And they're looking forward to something being paid parking, towards paid parking. So I think that we need to head in that direction. We also need, I've always been one, this whole council's been one as far as that goes, to try to keep taxes down and not raise taxes. This is a way for us not to raise taxes. The money that comes in can certainly, and we need some roads taken care of. We're tired of patching potholes. We need our roads taken care of. We need a lot of other things, and this money that comes in from that can help alleviate that without having to raise taxes and keep our tax rate down for our citizens. And no, we don't own the beach. That beach belongs to everyone. But how you get to that beach matters, and that's what we're talking about. So I am for paid parking based on the percentages that I've seen that's been, and feedback that I've gotten from residents, and feedback I've gotten from going on Facebook and looking at those comments that's been left. It supports that, so therefore I support it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Torres.
Thank you, Mayor, Kyle, for all the work that you have put into this with the staff. We have been discussing paid parking, I think, recently, as far as I'm concerned. I know it's always been kind of in the air, in the backdrop somewhere as a thought. But even the last two work sessions, I disagree. I wanted to talk about the paid parking, and we said this isn't about paid parking. It was about Otto and the software and the town app. But every time Otto briefed the app, it went down to paid parking. And it wasn't until the last work session that we came together as a council and voted, are we going in that direction? So I didn't perceive it all this year that we were actually looking to implement paid parking. It was brought up about a year ago as an exploratory thing, and you've explored it, but it was never put to us as a council for a vote to go in that direction. So I was surprised that Otto had taken such time to develop a software with something that we had yet to decide. So it appeared to me that the decision was made, and now we're rationalizing why that decision was made. Personally, I'm against paid parking. I'll give you a couple reasons why. One, after discussing the financial footing of this town, we do not have a revenue problem, which is why I brought up the point for the group earlier that we have a debt ratio of 2.9%, and ideally you want that to be below 15. We're plenty below that. So if we had to take on some financial debt to do what we're about to do with the Army Corps project, I think we could do that without paid parking. The parking, I agree, was a disaster in this town. Has been for some time, but it was amplified this year with so many people coming to town. But that's because we didn't have a managed parking system to begin with. It was a free-for-all. People were parking all over the roads, all over people's personal property. I'll tell you what, if I give, whether it's an employee, a task, I would want that task to be achievable, attainable. We gave the police department an unachievable task. How could you ever expect them to meet the expectation of managing parking when it was the Wild Wild West? I believe that if we identify 550 parking spaces deliberately, where people know where it's okay to park, whether it's paid or not, you're gonna help the safety part that was brought up today. People are gonna park in 550 spots. And now that we know where those allowable places are, I think the citizenry and people in general, they wanna follow the law. How can they? They didn't know where right was, you know, so to identify 550, tell them this is where you can park, it goes after that. I think the police will then be able to manage those that are parking in the wrong spaces. Furthermore, my reluctance to go in this direction would be in the middle of a pandemic that has not been seen in 100 years, and the impact that this is having economically on people, the underemployed, the unemployed, those that are on a fixed income are now going to have to take on an additional economic liability at a time where they can't. Federal government is writing checks left and right to people because they're hurting economically. And I was told by this body that all I need to do is worry about Surf City residents. I do, every day. I go to bed, I wake up thinking about our residents in this town that I enjoy. But I also think about, and I'm empathetic of other people, our neighbors, those that live in the ETJ specifically. It's been said in forums with discussion in the past few months that day trippers don't spend money. I asked, where's the data behind this opinion? Of course they do. Of course they spend money. It's been said we don't want to stop people from coming here. But yet, at the same time, they say, well, if North Topsail implements paid parking, we have to because people are going to come here. So which one is it? We want people coming here or we don't? It's like double speak, right? So come up with a manageable parking system off the island parking lots. I mean, there's got to be options here. But I think this year could be the worst timing in which we should take this on. And we don't have a revenue problem. Because I asked myself, well, Jeremy, like you did when you ran, if we're ever faced with a decision to go with an ordinance for this town, I had three simple things. Is it necessary? Economically, I just pointed out that it's not. We have a short-term gap, and we want to implement a long-term solution. Municipalities, whether they're at the federal government or local, should not be in the business of raising money to later figure out what to do with it. That's unnecessary, in my opinion. So I would hope that if this body decides to go down that route, then some of the provisions, I've got some ideas because, I mean, I'm like a single guy in the boat rowing upstream, is what I feel like. But this was never put together as a commission to bring in subject matter experts, to bring in residents to be a part of the discussion. This decision was made, and now we're trying to rationalize it. And that's all I have for now.
I have a response to that, Dwight. I think back in June, we can go back and pull the minutes up from the meetings. I think back in June, we originally came to consensus as a group to have the manager bring something in, find some information, get that information. And then he did that, he brought it to us, and then as a group, we made another consensus to move forward with looking at paid parking, coming up with some design of paid parking, and I think the minutes will bear that out from the town meetings, and anyway, we can go back and look at that and see.
I thought we moved forward on an app idea for the town.
It was all about, has been about parking and movement, and that's the one I'm talking about, not the app. The app is what helps control that and some other things that paid parking. But yeah, but we have been looking at it for a while, and that's as a group. And I say a group because you were at those meetings, and we came together with a consensus to do that. And I agree with you, it's a bad time to try to have to put anything out because our economy is bad. The pandemic has caused a lot of stuff. But at the same time, we need to do what is best for the town and be in that manner. Now, as far as being safe, as far as needing financial, I think you need to look at your taxes. I think you need to look at what we need to do. We have roads that we need or bad need. To do roughly a mile of road is roughly $1.5 million, I think, something like that. And I've heard, and the council's heard me say this before, and the citizens has too. We can do anything that our citizens would like that's good for the town, as long as they are willing to pay for it. And paying for it means raising taxes. So with that in mind, I'm looking at how to keep things down without raising taxes, and giving as much service as we can to our citizens in town. I have never said anything about day trippers coming or anyone else. I want as I said I want our beach to be free, but it can't, the beach is free, but how you get there will not be. So I respect what your feelings, and I think we need to hear some of your ideas, but I still support Bay Park.
Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
So I don't, obviously, I think you're well educated, Dwight, and you typically call me out on things when need be. You use the word rationalize. It says attempt to explain or justify one own's behavior with logical, plausible reasons, even if they're not true. Now, I don't believe that any of this is untrue. I know I met with the mayor last July and discussed his visit for parking to Carolina Beach. I met with Councilman Fowler last September to discuss about parking. I've met with Councilwoman Batts before and talked about parking. I've met with you, had coffee about parking. As a councilman, we all can't get together as a group, so you have coffee with your fellow councilman. So that is, there's not a lie to any of that.
I didn't say it was a lie.
Well,
I met with the mayor as well.
I know, but can I finish, please?
Sure.
I'm just saying is, you said we're rationalizing.
Correct.
That means even if these are not true or appropriate, this is true. There's nothing rationalizing about this. Sorry to bring that up, and I'm just saying none of this is rationalized. Okay? I just want to also say I don't believe painting parking squares on the street solves the problem. This is a major issue. And I never said day trippers don't spend money. I said I would, in my position, I would be willing to bet that a majority of them do not spend money at our local businesses when they go to the beach. Well, I can't give you data. All I can tell you is me standing on my deck and watching people pull in my parking lot and people pull up and down the street. And I've got to walk out and say, and by the way, Councilman Batts didn't tell you, I've heard parking guard, by the way. She didn't tell you that. I have to go out and, no, I'm just joking about that. But no, it is a serious dilemma. And so I just want to say, I didn't say day trippers don't spend money. I said a majority of them, I believe, and it's my opinion, doesn't have to be factual, that there's no data on it because nobody stands there with a calculator. But I have seen it for years, and especially since I moved my business to the Central District, I now experience it all the time. We didn't want to mention, Bobby Owings from The Gathering wanted me to tell you this. They got 90 spots over there. So he likes paid parking. He thinks it's good. And if somebody, by the way, in their parking lot can't afford parking, they can go park there for free, just not on Sunday mornings. So there is options for people to park for free. No doubt. So, I can't speak for the Catholics.
Me,
but, okay, I'm just, yeah.
They usually park there.
So anyway, I'm just saying this. Bobby wanted me to let y'all know that. We spoke yesterday about it. And he said, hey, I got a lot there. He says, what's funny is, do you know his lot's there's never no cars in his lot. And there's no sign to say you can't park there. So there is another option for people if they can't afford it. So anyway, Dwight, I wasn't giving you a hard time. I'm just saying is you
None taken.
Okay.
Okay. Got any response?
I'm good. I hope we have an opportunity to go over these fee schedules and see if that's where they actually are going to be.
Yeah, they will.
And
We
some
will.
other things as far as the calendar, don't think it needs to be as wide as it is. So if we're going down there, I've got some things that I would like to see you consider for adjustment.
Okay.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll go over, still got a lot of points that we need to go over. That's why we're working. Just like, I mean, decisions are not made overnight. It just has a lot of input to it. And I guess we got started off a little bit slow, but, you know, paid parking is, like I said before, is not an easy topic. It's difficult. And personally, I have always stood firmly, and Teresa will back me up on this, against implementing paid parking. Of course, I never wanted my children to grow up either. I wanted to keep my children small so I could play with them. But they eventually grew up. And it turned out for the best. I got grandchildren I can play with now. And of course they're growing up. But that, you know, I had to make changes in order to do that. So our community is like a family. It keeps growing. And as a family grows, it keeps adding on people. So therefore you have to make changes to accommodate for the people that is being added on. And like I say, I fought to preserve our town just like it is. And we all want to keep it a family-oriented community. And with the chaos we saw last year, it didn't seem like it was really family-oriented. And it wasn't for the best for the safety of the families. Yes, we need more sidewalks and bike paths so that kids can safely ride their bikes around. Right now, sometimes they are taking their life in their hands if they get out there on a bike. And like I say, the attention was brought to me about the parking there at Charlotte. They're right. I mean, I don't think we looked at that close enough. So that's a change we got to make. We'll probably have more changes as we go down the road. You know, but like I said, the whole reality is, over the years, our beach has kept growing. A lot of people don't. It's just like Tate the other day said, you know, some people have their houses here, they want to lock the bridge. That's always been an expression that everybody used. I got my house, I want to lock the bridge, now I don't want anybody else to come over here. That's not the way I feel. I like for everybody that can to come to our beach and enjoy it. And you talk about day trippers, I'm sort of different with day trippers. You know, a lot of my livelihood has been made on day trippers. And they do spend money here. And I do welcome day trippers. I welcome what I call our neighbors, which is the ones in the communities around us. You know, Sneed Ferry, Holly Ridge, Hampstead, those places. I figure them as neighbors. And the people in between Surf City and those places. So, you know, I believe in doing things to help our neighbors, to give them more of a chance. You know, maybe we can come up with a discounted season pass for them. You know, another thing was, you know, people said, you know, I've got a babysitter that comes in. So we have talked with Otto about that, and I think he can come up with a way that we can take care of those. So the babysitter can bring the kids to the beach. you know, it's gonna be a little bit complicated to start with. It's not gonna be simple, but I think he's keeping, and this app that he's using, he will keep working on it. You know, some of it right now is gonna be, not gonna be as simple as just doing it on the app. You may have to go to the town hall and get a special pass, as Kyle was talking about. You know, we talked a little bit about making a parking lot that was free. I'm not sure that that would work out, but we can look at that. Some of them wants to change it to where it's Memorial Day through Labor Day. We can't do that. That would be too much of a cutback. Maybe we can go to, you know, March the 15th and end it October the 15th, something like that. Now, this is not something that I'm asking, putting in writing, but I'm just saying that these are some options that maybe we can look at. Of course, you know, a lot of people said, oh, let's just put it off. We got to put it off another year to get it all straightened out. I think if we put it off another year, we would have the same problem next year. We would just have a little less money. But now we're, you know, one thing that definitely hurt me was when we added 10-cent tax onto our citizens. That was a hard decision to make. Actually, it was harder than this decision is, because it was going directly to our citizens. But we knew if we were going to do the beach nourishment project, then we had to have that money. We had to add it on. So now we know we're going to have a little bit more money, and maybe we are in good financial shape, but now we can't just say, well, you know, we got enough money to do the beach nourishment and we won't need any more money. But we got to think about all the other things as far as we being in a good position to borrow money. We got a lot of other projects. We got roads to pave. We got sewer to rework. I mean, we got the water system. We've got a lot of work we've got to do on the water system. All this takes funding. Yes, we're growing. And we'll get, you know, more tax revenue from that, but still we're having to pay stuff out before we can get the tax revenue from it. So we've got to look strongly at funding, and we've got to keep money in reserve in order to do projects that we need to do. So, I mean, I think we do need the money. I don't think we're loaded. You know, and sometimes you get a bonus check. You say, oh, darn, I'm in pretty good shape now. But then that bonus check goes away pretty quick. And you're right back like you were. So if you can get a raise, that raise is a lot better than that bonus check is. It is constantly coming in. And if somebody else, like I say, these people that come to the beach, they do enjoy it. And, you know, they do think that it is free. But as somebody from Curie Beach said, nothing is free. Somebody is paid for it. And so this, I feel like that this is a way that the people that come in that are not paying property taxes and all can help with donating to the town a little bit. I know that they help donate to the town when they come in and buy products, go to the restaurants and eat, because some of that sales tax from that goes to the town. But this is another way that they can help donate to help keep up that free beach that is out in front of us. That's going to cost us millions of dollars. So somebody's got to pay for it. So this is just another way that our visitors, I feel like, can help us pay for the beach that we have out there. And really, a lot of those visitors use it a lot more than I do. I don't have a whole lot of time to use that beach. But I do appreciate it being there. I love looking at it, even though they've got the blinds closed right now. But I do enjoy watching that ocean, and it is a calming feeling when you can just sit there and look at that ocean as it rolls back and forth, and that light glittering off of it. It is given to us by God, but it's our responsibility to keep it maintained, just like we want to keep it clean. And yes, we could just mark the spaces off, and a big portion of the people would park in those spaces without having to be told where to park. But a big portion of them would not. We know how people are. So again, we would have to have more police. And it's expensive to hire police. And that would just mean the citizens would have to pay for it also. So if we can get more income from the parking to help pay for some of this stuff, I feel like that would give the people that come here, then they can feel like that they have got an investment in it. So maybe they will help look after it a little better. You know, anytime you got money invested in something, then you take better care of it. And so if they've got money invested in it, then I hope that they will look at it as being partially theirs, and so they'll take care of it a little better. You know, but having an investment, that's the way families work. You know, if you feel like it is your home, then you're going to look after it a little better. I know I'm just roaming now, but, you know, I'm trying to express my personal feeling.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I'm sitting here today, is because of my love for the town and the people. And I want to give them the best I can give them. And I feel like that right now we're not giving them the best. And we need to look at investing a little more in it so that we can give them the best. Okay, I'll quit with that. But I do want to thank everybody for their input. And I guess do we need to go into closed session now, Attorney?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do we want to talk about anything? Dwight had some questions about it, some things he wanted to add to it, questions on.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can go in and discuss that if you want to.
I'll be real quick. So 550 parking spaces, over how many permanent residents do we have? 2,000 plus?
Yeah.
That's not counting Waterside and Magnolia, which is going to bring on how many more?
Yeah,
I'm just trying to do math in public.
right,
My point is probably 5,000 somewhere along that line.
right,
Times 2 passes, 10,000 free parking spaces. In my logical mind, I don't see how 10,000 spaces are going to fit in 550, available spaces. And when I'm talking about the math here, because Otto, in his presentation to us in January 15th, he said that he needed 80% of the people paying to park in order for his business model to work. I said that to Kyle yesterday, and Kyle said, well, because I said, what happens when we don't have 800, these people, 80% of those parking in those spots, not paying, and Otto doesn't make his 80% that he's expecting. Otto goes out of business, what do? We hire another vendor that's going to have the same problem. My point is, I think we're going down a road where we're thinking we're gonna make some money, and it's not gonna be that 80% that Otto's expecting with the numbers that I just described. Just the math doesn't seem to work. But that's why I encourage and would recommend that we do the designated parking spaces. I deliberately identify them, and do the no parking zones, and see if our current police staff can manage a manageable parking system without paying this year as a test before you make it permanent going forward. Once you make this permanent, it's not going away. It's only going to grow from there. And plus, it also takes into consideration those that are being impacted this year economically. It's fair to at least try it that way. But to go, we had a no managed parking system, police department manage it, obviously that didn't work. It's unattainable. Why not try it for a year before you go down the road of paid parking? I don't see how it hurts. The $20 a day, and that, he said, couldn't be lower either. I think, Jeremy, you brought up you'd like it to be, see it to be 15. Obviously, I'd like it to be 0. We all know that. But why can't we do 15? He was kind of, what's that?
I don't like the 15. I think we need to leave it at $20.
Because 20 is the right spot. Why? Like, why is that the right number?
If you continue to lower all the fees, then you're gonna wind up with nothing. Leave your fees attainable like they are, and if we're just putting in paid parking, just to be putting in paid parking, and it's not gonna benefit the town, and we're thinking about, our main consideration is looking after the citizens here in Surf City that pay property tax and everything else, and we got this gorgeous beach out here we're trying to upgrade. Then if you keep lowering the fees, then you're gonna, like you said, you're gonna end up, he's not gonna end up with any money to pay him, then the town's gonna end up with nothing. And it's not that, and it's supposed to be a revenue source to help the citizens or the taxpayers of Surf City to keep from having to raise the taxes. I understand we're at the 2.9, but that could go away at one hurricane. We've seen this, the people that's been around here long enough. This town was devastated during Florence. Well, we gotta pay the bills before the federal government will pay us back for them. So you keep lowering these fees and you go get down to where, yes, you got paid parking, but it's a wash. Well, you're not gaining anything by that.
I don't think that, I'm gonna agree with you, Dwight. I mean, I know you don't like it at all, and I respect that, but I like the $15. I've said it from the get-go, it separates us from Wrightsville, it separates us from other beaches. It still means that we're trying to keep the rates down for people that want to travel in. I don't believe you can go down. I think you can always go up as time goes on because of inflation. I think if you go to 20 and start at 20, then if it doesn't prevail, then you got to go down to 15. I think 15 is a good place to start. It doesn't seem like you're trying to, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really care about auto. I care about them, but I don't. If they can't make money on 15, that's their problem, not mine. Okay? I mean, 15's, if all those spots are full at 15, the numbers, they do jive at the 80%, no doubt. So I'm still in favor of 15, and I think it's a good place. Just like the hourly rate, I'm not in favor of the $5 per hour. I'm in favor. I like to see it $3 an hour, $15 per day is what I like to see it. I think it's a good start. I think it shows people that we're not trying to hit a home run. We're not trying to win the World Series right away. We're not trying to win the national championship. We're just trying to win some games. And that's just kind of where I'm at. So.
Anybody else got anything?
I would just, you know, I'm not I think the $5 is excessive per hour. If I had to, you know, pick a number, I probably would go with, you know, the $3. I think $5 is just crazy. We're not a Rosal Beach, you know. I don't think any of us are, you know, everybody says that, just tries to compare us to there, and that's not what we are. And as far as like the time frame, you know, if we even if you went from April, you know, to October, mid-October, that still gives you like the Easter. I think Easter sometimes falls in March. People that come down to the beach that go to like a sunrise service, which I know that's earlier in the morning. One other thing that I think we discussed was the time frame starting like at 9. That gives people that exercise on the beach, people that do turtle walks on the beach, people that surf before they go to work, starting at 9 will still give people to park for free that do that morning exercise on the beach. And if you leave the parks open, people that, if they could park at Soundside Park and walk the bridge, if you leave that park on the other side of Sears Landing, over there beside Sears Landing, open for free, people could park there, exercise on the bridge at any time, you know, not just the you know, but leave that parking for free. And then, like I say, if you have all your parks, you know, free for, you know, even if you have to put a time limit on it, as long as there's free parking for that family that can afford, hey, we want to go down to the beach, we're going to park here, you know, for a couple of hours, walk to the beach, or we're going to walk the bridge or walk the downtown area. You got to take in consideration that family that cannot afford it.
So you're saying that, okay, you're talking about maybe changing the month from what?
Even if you went from April through, you know, mid-October, you know, because I think mid-October is when, you know, a lot of your fishermen come in, you know, that are a lot of, they just ride down for the day and go fishing. I think that's, you know, something that we can discuss for sure.
Right.
I like the April 1st to the October 31st. That's 7 months on, 5 months off. I think that's, I mean, it really is, it's showing that we want to work this out. I think it's not far off. It's not far off where we were initially.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
And hours, you're saying what, 9 to 5?
I think that's good.
9 to 5, you know, that way in the evenings, as far as like, you know, a lot of people will wait until late in the evenings even to come to the beach because of the heat. A lot of especially your like senior citizens will wait till the evenings to come to the beach when it's less, you know, hot. I think you know, we could definitely work on the time frame.
Yeah, and I think most of the beach goers have left by 5 o'clock.
Most of them.
And people want to go to dinner. People want to go to dinner or activities down here. That opens that opportunity up for people that are vacationing in Topsail on Surf City.
Right.
They can drive to a
Come down.
restaurant here.
Right.
Yeah, so.
5 o'clock.
That takes care of the time frame, and when we started, we're back to the fees now.
Do what?
We're back to the fees. I've heard support for $3 an hour, $15 an hour, I believe. Do we want to change? And let me say this, Otto came in, or whoever then it was going to be, it wound up being Otto, and he put a stake in the sand. That's just a suggested starting point. This council sets the rates,
Right.
sets the times.
That's what I say.
Sets it all. So it's what we decide to do and how we decide to do. And as Ms. Bass just said, and some of the rest of you have said, if we are thinking about our sea turtle walkers and stuff, if we look at that, that gives them time to get out there. We have a lot of people like to see the sunrise come on the beach. If we can make that a free area from basically sunrise to 9 o'clock, which is what we're doing. That should take care of a large portion of not only our residents, but our friends and neighbors close by. And if we do it, people wants to surf or walk the beach can still do that in the morning. If we have young men and young ladies that surf, which we do, and they work and they get off of work around 5 and they get over here, that beach will be free for them to park wherever they want to park at that time too. So that takes care, as we've all said in different ways, look out for our people, look out for our residents.
Right.
And if we're doing that, and this is what's doing that, it takes all that into consideration. It also gives our people, our friends and neighbors across on the mainland over there, the same opportunity. And going back again and looking at what the comments were from Facebook on for and against and with making exceptions and provisions. They're not opposed to paying a yearly fee. They're not opposed to having some of these other things. Their biggest question was, we need some free time. And I think by us doing this, we're accommodating the free time for most of the ones who had questions that came out. Our businesses, we're taking care of them, I think, because they need parking areas as well, because some of them don't have the parking spaces. But if we cut it off at 5 o'clock, most people start coming at around 5:30 on to eat. That would take care of that. So I think we need to consider this 9 to 5, and I think April 1st to October 31st is fine as well, as a start point from the council. And if the fees, the consensus of the council is to $3 to $15, then that's what we said, that's what we give to Otto, and that's what he goes with. Now, so that's a decision that we have to make, and I think right now, what is the consensus? Someone's not letting me do that.
Point of order, Mayor, I don't believe that was identified as an action item for the special meeting.
what?
I don't believe that was identified as an action item for the special meeting held today, to set the rates. I mean,
No,
discussion.
we're not setting the rates, but we're discussing.
We're discussing.
Right, but I mean, formally, if you're going to formally adopt it, I would recommend you wait till next week's meeting.
Yeah, but we won't
gonna
adopt
it.
we won't
Okay.
adopt anything until April the 2nd. Yeah,
Mr. Mayor?
February 2nd.
I mean, February the 2nd, I don't know where I got April. February the 2nd. yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
I mean, we need to have,
I just want to say one thing. I know that the 15 and 3 may change the scope of the income. We're still getting income. So we didn't get any income. So now we're gonna get some income. It may be a little less. It is what it is. If, as Councilman Fowler say, this is what I'd like to see. So when you're putting this together, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Fowler, you guys are putting this together, that's what I'd like to see. Whatever the general council agrees with and their majority wants, I'm going to go with, obviously, but I'd like to see the 3, the 15, obviously. I'd like to see the April 1st. I don't care if it's April 15th, October 15th or October 31st, whatever y'all decide on that. You guys know best for that. So I also had another question. North Topsail Beach is going to do this parking program too. Does that pass go over to both sides, or just our city, and their city?
yeah,
There's been a desire for consistency, so I will try to communicate that.
I'm just asking, I don't know.
yeah, we're gonna try to work with North Topsail as far as the time frames and all that. And they said that they would even work with us on the charges. So, I mean, this would be presented at the February meeting.
2 more points.
And we'll talk about it again about 3 and 15.
2 more points.
Huh?
If you have time, 2 more points.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we consider including, unless I missed it, the ETJ or not? Did we say we were going to include them as they consider themselves Surf City residents?
No.
I brought it up. It was presented to me. Several
It
people
has
called
to
me,
me
and
as
that's
well.
why I asked last meeting. I just asked the meeting, yeah.
ETJ,
I'd like to at least look at that number and see if it's viable. We just went, no, they don't pay taxes, we're not doing it. But can we at least consider that they do bring a lot to this community? And I've been contacted I mean, I can go down the list of names. They are contributors. Just something to consider. Number two, I hope this one's not that difficult for a decision, but
Right, well,
a military discount. A large number of young Marines come here and they live payday to payday, I know. I was there once, but I would like to see if we could offer them a military discount on these seasonal passes.
Seasonal passes?
Yes.
I don't oppose that at all. I think that's good for senior citizens as well as military. That should take-
Seniors as well.
And that's something else that we could look at ETJ too.
Please.
I mean, for the seasonal pass instead of,
For the military.
no, well, for the military and for
Discount.
ETJ.
Are you asking for active duties or across the board, retired,
Active
active
duty,
duty, disabled?
Disabled,
Just military.
veteran, yeah, across the board.
They're active duty or veteran.
But active duty and disabled, they would park free anyway.
Yeah, but I'm saying active duty or retired, they've served. Veterans, Lowe's does 10%.
It would just come through, just the process in which we would implement that would have to be a verification process. So it would come through a special permit at least, and I'll get up with you, Councilman Torres, in regards to accurate discharge paperwork that we would be able to validate.
DD
That's-
214.
There you
I
go.
got you.
Okay. I thought that's what it was, but I didn't want to.
Yeah.
It'll say, on the DD 214, it says their status of discharge. So if they served and they were discharged unhonorably, would
Yeah,
that make a
obviously.
difference?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it
So
does say,
an honorable discharge on the DD 214.
yes,
Anything else?
that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Then, Kyle, what, are you going to take these things we discussed and for our next meeting
Yes, sir,
coming up in
Mr.
February
Yes, sir,
and have
Mr.
this set
President.
for us to look at? And
What I'll do, since we have published within our agenda the proposed rates, we'll go back and I'm not going to amend the agenda and the materials in there, but we'll have supplemental information that we can put out, ahead of that time based on consensus of council. And yes, I've taken all the notes. I'm quite certain Stephanie has taken.
Well, I mean, I have told most of the people that those rates that were put out have not been set.
right. It's just a starting point.
Yeah, we hadn't voted on them yet.
As we said right now, I've got a general consensus on a time frame from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and April through October. So where we would need to move forward on a general consensus today for a vote for Tuesday is what do you want your rates to be or your discounts that are associated with those rates so that we can add that to the February 2nd agenda.
Well, we can't put it in there as being the new rates.
Yeah.
I just need a consensus to what you want on Tuesday, because otherwise Tuesday we'll go back in and have the same conversation. But if you'll set a consensus of what you want the rates to be today, then Tuesday we'll be ready to vote
Okay, put
on
in
those,
there
either
as
for or against.
Three.
okay, do I have a consensus on 3 to 3 and 15 on the rate?
I'm fine with it. Let's go get this.
I'm fine with it if that's what the majority wants. I'm not, the 3 to 5 or the 3 to 15. But just to make a point, I don't say the people that in the ETJ or in the county don't contribute to the funds or taxes of Surf City, but they don't have the property taxes that the citizens and taxpayers of Surf City have, that they're paying town taxes and they're paying county taxes. The people in the ETJ do not pay town property tax. And my biggest concern is I want to look after the taxpayers of Surf City. It's not that I don't care about the people out there in the county, but I'm looking at the best thing that's best for the citizens or taxpayers of Surf City.
I agree. I like the military, I like the senior.
Yes,
Those are two
I don't
things.
have a problem.
I'm not really for the ETJ, because, I mean, I think, because we gotta keep giving, is it next Holly Ridge, is it next Sneeds Ferry, is it next Hampstead? So I'm just saying is, yeah, next Raleigh. No, and I'm not being fishy, but definitely military, definitely seniors. I mean, that military was a great point, I'm 100% for that, so.
So you won't even consider a discount for the ETJ?
10%.
I brought that up at the last meeting.
remember.
100%. And then after I did some homework, I don't feel as compassionate about that as I do your senior thing and your military thing. I really feel compassionate about big time. I think that's brilliant. But I don't feel compassionate about the ETJ thing right now, unless some of you guys can share other things with me and make me feel different.
I would like that to be considered.
Speaking of that, I don't have, ETJ, we control basically their destiny. They can't do anything with their property without our agreement. That's what the extraterritorial jurisdiction. That's what that is. So, but if we want to include them in for a discount, since we do control that, I won't object to that, but it's whatever the council wants to do. But I don't think we need to go out and go beyond that, because we here again, we want to help all those that we can help. And I think we're doing that. We're making it as palatable as we can to everyone. And I don't have a problem with including them, since we do control what they can and can't do with their property. Have a say-so in that. I don't have a problem with that being added to senior citizen and veterans.
Thank you, buddy.
You could put ETJ on there for
Discount.
discount to
Right.
vote.
I'll also agree with, that as well. There's a lot of, people that live in the ETJ that support our Surf City, and are a lot of business owners,
Okay.
in that area.
All right. Okay, so do we have a consensus?
Consensus.
Yes.
Next time though,
Huh?
on the discounts?
Yeah.
What percentage of a discount?
We don't know. Do we know yet?
I said 10%.
10%?
I agree. 10% standard.
That seems to
Okay.
be the industry
And same
standard.
for
yeah.
ETJ?
Yep.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mayor. Thank you.
All right.
And that's on the
Okay,
yearly
so
tax, right?
Now
Yeah.
what we've got is 3 and 15 on the rate, discount of 10% for season passes on military and ETJ.
And retirees.
And seniors?
Seniors.
And senior
Huh.
citizens.
Seniors. And seniors.
Seniors, okay, and senior. Okay,
And the 10% is the discount.
all right,
Right.
and then April 1st to October the 15th is the dates.
April 1 to, why don't we go from April 1 to the end of October? Or
Okay.
if you want to do October the 15th, that's fine with me too, but I know as a general rule, as long as we have weather that's warm, people are going to continue to come. And not only, I'm not going to use the word, but not only people that come here on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis. In your rentals, pretty active all the way through November?
Well, I don't do rentals.
Well, that's
The other
right,
lady
you
in my
don't
have-
office,
no.
the
But-
other lady in my office does.
November drops off pretty drastically.
November
usually.
drops off
Now,
because-
October usually stays,
Consistent.
fairly decent, yeah.
Because with my wife being in the cleaning
Yeah.
business, she stays busy through October,
Yeah,
through the month of October.
right.
So from April 1 through October the 30th or 31st I think would be a good time for it.
Okay. Okay, now we're talking about 3 and 15. We're talking about the discount for seniors, the military and ETJ, 10%, and date being April through October the 31st.
Right.
Do I have a consensus on that?
I agree with that.
Chairman?
Is that what everybody wants to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I'm just kind of seeing what everybody wants to do
Okay.
here. Kind of watching a little bit.
Now what?
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
Give you last chance.
Yeah, I'm good, yes. I'm good with that, yes, consensus.
All right, you
yes.
got that down, Stephanie? Okay, is that right, attorney?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, do we have anything else before we go into special session? Yes, sir, buddy, what you got? He's fine.
He's pointing at her, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
we
If
done with all
nothing
that?
else, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I make a motion, we go into closed session for attorney-client privilege, statutory 143-318, 11A3.
I second that
You
motion.
second. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay,
Let's take a break.
thank you. We're gonna take a
need to go back live in order to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, all right, I want to thank everybody for their input in this. I feel like that we got a lot covered today. You know, we worked as a family today, really, and let everybody put in their feelings. And I think we agreed together on most of it. And that's, Dwight's not here right now, but thank Dwight for his input and his working with us, and each one of you. I think everybody has done a good job, and I think we're looking at something that will be providing safety for the town, especially for our children. That's been one of my big concerns with the parking situation. And we still got a long way to go. I know we'll make a lot of changes, and a lot of people think that we moved fast, but we didn't. It has been a long, drawn-out thing, but we just didn't talk about it, you know, in the open so much, but we did a lot of work on it. The town employees did a lot of work on it as well. I want to thank Kyle for all his input in it, thank Stephanie for her input and her working on it, because they did, you know, they interviewed and talked with a lot of different companies and came up with what I think is the best. And it just so happened that the owner of this company is a local person. And I think it even makes it that much better, because we know where to find him if we have problems.
That's true.
He's not in Ohio, or not to put knockoff on you, but or one of them was one of the companies was even from Canada, so we. Of course, that wouldn't have been a bad trip to go to Canada. We talked about that, but anyway, there was we talked with different companies, and I think that this gives us the best opportunity for the parking and then other things that will be coming out in later on. So I think it's going to be a good working relationship with the town, and I just think it's going to be a benefit to all our citizens. So I appreciate each and every one of you putting up with it, and if there's nothing else,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
do I have a second? All in favor? I know there's nobody against it, so thank you.
Jason,